Hey guys, Rascal here, and welcome to another Rascal Reviews. And this time, joining me is Mama Entertainment.
Hello.
And we'll be covering the Disney movie Encanto, which is just released on streaming on the 20th of December and released in theaters in November.
And we talk about Bruno.
Now, we wanted to cover this movie because it has been a big trend so far for the past few weeks. At first it came out in November and not many people talked about it because it was over the holidays. But then when it came out on streaming and more people had more access to it because they didn't go to the theaters, it blew up in popularity. And all of the music done by Lin Manuel Miranda just started catching on fire basically. And it's been trending for weeks now and people still talking about it all over the world.
But the biggest one that's trending is we don't talk about Bruno.
Yes! And at the time of this video, it is slightly over 103 million views on YouTube.
Plus the video that shows the lyrics added to it.
Right.
It's well over.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then also find out that it is one of the most streamed songs in the country. It's almost at the top of the Billboard's Top 100. It's at number 1 for all these music streaming services. So literally the entire world is talking about Bruno.
Yes.
It's like how, and like it went the entire opposite direction of the song. And this pretty much is why the movie really exploded, was really somehow because of this one song.
Yes, definitely. And we didn't know what to expect because when you see the commercial, it really paints a different picture of what the movie is versus what the movie actually is when you watch it.
Yeah.
And we did watch it on Disney Plus.
Right. And at first it kind of sounded like they were going on this little adventure outside the home. Turns out they didn't. So to tell you that up front, I was like, that was a little disappointing because I was expecting a big adventure, but I guess this is about a house. People inside a house, I guess they have to stay in the house. But one thing is that it does quite a few things differently. And for the plot, basically, is that it's sort of like taking inspiration from a superhero story where they have this family with gifts. Instead of they calling them powers, they call them gifts, giving them by to a magic candle. The house is alive. It's literally made of magic. And each of the Mirabels, the Mirabel family, all get a certain gift, except for the main character, the Mirabel. I'm sorry, the Madrigals.
The Madrigals.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute.
The Madrigals, Encanto.
Right? Right. So Mirabel is the only one who did not receive a gift. And you really don't know why she didn't receive one. They never really explain it. People have made theories, but it's never really addressed in the film why she didn't have it. But you assume it's for the purpose of helping her family still. When they kind of show throughout the film that something's happening to the magic, like it's vanishing for some reason. There's cracks all in the house. And she figure out a way how to save the house.
Yes, and then we go through the roster of the family, learning whom they are, what gifts they've received, and then at the time of the movie, the little brother is receiving his gift.
Yes.
And he's so cute, and he wants her to go with him, and she doesn't want to go. He says, but you have to go. I need you.
Yes.
So cute. And so she goes with him, and he gets his gift. It's just Dr. Dolittle. He talks
Pretty
to
much.
animals.
Pretty much.
And she still doesn't have one. And then after that is when the story really begins to move forward.
Yes. And so each of them has a gift. You have like her aunts who have the gift of weather controlled by emotions. You see how well that will turn out.
Storm.
With anybody. Her mother has the power to heal people through food. Like they eat the food and they're instantly healed. Like, yeah, everyone needs that basically.
Tamaki or He-Man.
And her sisters, like one can make plants grow and beautiful flowers, supposed to be perceived as the perfect kid.
I'm sorry, the Vine Girl from MHA Class 1B.
Basically, yeah, it was just with flowers instead of vines. And then you have, I think, Lucia, who's pretty much has the gift of great strength, so she can lift things like a big superhero. And then you have her cousins, like you said, one has a gift of stalking animals within the film, and one can shapeshift. I don't know what that's gonna do though. Shape-shifting.
Isn't the little boy her brother, right?
Oh,
it's her cousin.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that just...
Yeah, for a second I thought it was until they showed, the two other girls with the sisters.
So Dr. Dolittle, and what was the other gift?
Shape-shifting. It was like, wait, what is that gonna do? Right. It's not like Ben 10, is it? And then one that they leave to almost last is her uncle Bruno, who has the power power to see into the future.
We don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah, then the entire movie, whenever Bruno is brought up, they immediately say, we don't talk about him. They're like, well, why? Well, we're not going to tell you till halfway through the film. And then they bring out this song called We Don't Talk About Bruno, which is
the best song of the movie.
Right. And
there
pretty
are
much
other good songs, but this one here, you can sing it over and over. And when you're doing other things, all of a sudden you're going, we don't talk about Bruno. It has nothing to do with what you're doing or thinking about, but you end up singing.
Right. And it kind of goes to the point where, does Disney have a problem with people named Bruno? Like, does someone piss them off? Because there's like, this and Luca, they have two movies where people don't like someone named Bruno. And it's like, did someone named Bruno just tick off somebody there and we don't know it? So for here with this song, it was like where it comes like the crucial part of it. And it also helps develop the plot. It's part of the plot. The others kind of just be there to help tell you about the character, but they don't really advance the story because this movie's nearly 2 hours. But for We Don't Talk About Bruno, the story is continuing as it's going. So each member kind of tells you something about Bruno besides the gift. And the whole time, he's kind of being shown as he's this big villain in here. Like he uses that for evil, and he causes chaos wherever he goes. He tells someone their future, and it's the worst case scenario, and they're always just pissed at him. And he's been gone for like 10 years. They say he vanished. So pretty much everyone tells their own version of Bruno, and none of them are good. One said he's 7 feet tall with rats along his back.
I was thinking he was going to be like this giant guy.
Yeah, just like
7 feet tall.
Like, where'd you get 7 feet from? So the whole time you kind of have this perceive that he's going to be the villain of the movie. But in a nice little twist, there's usually like a Disney plot twist villain that they've been doing ad nauseum, got annoying. This time, however, there was no twist villain, technically. There was no one trying to destroy them or anything. But even though people kind of like that sometimes for a musical. And here, they kind of set up Bruno to be the villain. And that's why you haven't seen him. And then when Bruno finally comes on screen, he's just the nicest guy ever.
Yes, and you can't help but love him. You can't. You're like, why is he in the basement? Why did you do that? What the heck is wrong with you?
And the worst part is that I kind of think, like, did they put him there or something? And he was originally going to run away, but then we didn't realize that they were kind of trapped in this town by the mountains. There were, like, big mountains that grew, so couldn't get over them, so he just kind of stayed within the walls, got food, and he just kind of lived there. And then as you're seeing, he's got his own little mini apartment there, and it's sad because it's like, these people don't talk about him or bring him up for 10 years, and she didn't even remember she had an uncle till they keep bringing it up in the song and the portrait.
She was so small when she last saw him.
Right.
Now, about the Bruno name, I remember you telling me you read that he was going to say, we don't talk about Oscar. And I'm like, no, that doesn't work. We don't talk about Oscar. No, we don't.
Yeah, that's the end.
But Bruno is just catchy.
Right. So when you get to that, the big emotional problem really comes in early before you even get to the bigger one towards the end of the film. We won't spoil what happens in the end. But you get to his character, and again, he's just the nicest guy ever. He's not villain material in the slightest. He just kind of feels like he wasn't helping people because every time he told them the future, it was the worst outcome. And
that song that goes with the explanation of that is the most hilarious because everything you hear is like, you didn't have to eat and drink the beer. You didn't have to go there.
You could have fed your goldfish.
Fixed your own hair. Yes. It was like all these things. It was like, it's not Bruno's fault. It's your poor decision. You made bad decisions. Why are you blaming Bruno?
Right. And it was just like, this poor guy has been feeling bad all these years. And it's like, but it's not his fault. So he kind of just separated himself from everybody because they talked about him. And then when there was this one thing where he sees a future concerning Mirabelle when she gets older, and it's something that has to do with the house. But he said even he couldn't tell what it meant. It looked like either she was going to fix it or break it. And he was going to tell them, but because they kept vilifying him as a villain and hated everything he told them as the future, and everything always came bad, he never told them so they wouldn't treat her the same way. So he left and broke the slide where it had the prophecy, and he left so they wouldn't vilify her the same way they did him, and just kind of left so she wouldn't be in the same boat as him.
And it happened anyway.
And it was like, oh, it's just in a different way.
Yeah. Just
in a different way. And they don't, so they don't hate her, it's just they treat her differently because she has no gift. And it's like,
but
come on.
She's treated like something's wrong with her. And
I was like,
keeps telling her, if you can't help, then you need to leave and you need to go
away.
Oh my
gosh!
So she was being treated just like Bruno, except for she was allowed to stay upstairs.
Yeah.
And she didn't run off.
Yeah, it was a little sad to see, like, he did that to protect her. And you could tell a lot of people could empathize with that, but then it was kind of sad to see that almost was for nothing because, aside, like you said, she didn't run away, but she still was treated differently. And it was sad because he really cared about her, and the others, they were like his kids, basically.
Right.
And he still did that, so they wouldn't be treated bad, and it was just like, you really felt bad. So from that point on, the goal was, fixing what was wrong within the family that needs to be repaired. That way the magic would be restored. And they do find it, but what happens after, you have to really see. We won't spoil it. But it really comes to an interesting point here where it's, we like pretty much all the characters, but it's obvious the one that they have being, like, the one no one wants to talk about is the favorite. Bruno is just about everyone's favorite character. Now, of course, some people like Mirabelle or Lucia or others, they have them.
Or Isabel,
yeah, or Camilio. They have them, but in terms of a big favorite, Bruno is at the top of the list now for everybody. So it sort of worked out in this ironic way with this movie.
And I think if they had planned it where they tried to make you feel for him and empathize and feel bad, it never would have worked. But because the way it was written, where you knew he was supposed to be the outcast, it worked like, it worked in the opposite direction of what they wrote. But if they had planned on him being that way, it never would have turned out the way it turned out.
Right. So then they also had where there were rumors that Lin Manuel Miranda was supposed to voice Bruno because it kind of looks like him.
It does.
And you got the one who does the voice of Sid the Sloth in Ice Age instead, who isn't bad as him.
John Leguizamo.
Yes, he isn't bad as him, but it's kind of like, imagine what it would have been like if he had done the voice, like you knew he was kind of supposed to be because he wrote the song.
Yes, and then you talk about Bruno.
Right.
And another thing that I thought was interesting is how he was designed. And a lot of times when they make characters like these, they make them, like anime pretty and
and built and things.
Right, and the way they drew him, he was very low-key, and he was very shy. It seemed like he was very low-key, very shy.
He was pretty thin.
He was very thin, and he didn't have the pretty boy anime look. But the thing is, you still fell in love with Bruno. He had this big puppy dog eyes. And the way you can tell the love's coming off of him, and you could tell he really loves his family so much that he, again, lived in a basement for 10 years and had no contact with them because he didn't want to leave his family, and he could still feel like he was around them. And how could you not love this character?
Right.
It's like everything you planned to make him not be the favorite ended up making him the favorite.
Right. Can you imagine someone working at Disney? It's like, okay, and you can even tell, like, the other characters have this sort of visual appeal to them. Like, they're all supposed to be very beautiful looking, attractive looking and all that. And then you got to Bruno, and then they did purposely the opposite for the design. And you imagine someone doing that, and like, okay, we know who we're going to have, we'll make sure he looks different from everyone else, and then we'll see how it goes. And then he's a favorite, and they're like, dang it, why didn't I promote him?
Because we don't talk about Bruno.
Right. So with that, I definitely wanted to cover Encanto as soon as we could. We would have done a little sooner, but we got busy. And
listening to the song over and over.
Right. And we have seen people make cast videos of this, playing the song on loop. We've seen it trending on Twitter. They talk about it on the news. They're talking about Bruno all around the world. So it was impossible for me not to do a review of this movie sooner than later.
And now they have a soundtrack where the disc itself, and it's a disc, has a picture of everybody, and would you believe they took poor Bruno and he's off to the side in a corner with his hood on. Why are you still mistreating Bruno? We love Bruno.
Oh yes. And one last thing I definitely need to mention is that we saw an analysis video when they talked about, like, the importance of Bruno and why the family kind of fell apart after he left. And they talk about the abuelita, where, she didn't even talk about him or anything. And it felt like almost shockingly didn't realize watching the movie, like he was gone for 10 years. He didn't get to see any of his nieces and nephews grow up. And it was like, that had to be sad. And then Mama took that really personally, because she said, how can you do that to your own son? How could you do that to your son? He's your kid. And it's like, Mom, calm down. It's a movie. I didn't hear you during we were watching the movie on Disney.
And it's a miracle that he didn't lose his mind down there with
Almost,
the rats.
Almost, because he also had Hernando and Jorge, who cleans the spot on this, and she said, how long have you been back here again? Like, I think he was kind of getting there already. He had 3 other people with him. So, definitely wanted to cover this movie, and if you haven't seen Encanto, it's definitely available on Disney Plus. There is no premiere access charge. You can see it, and it definitely will be out on DVD because it is not a Disney Plus original, so you'll still be able to own it physically on DVD very soon.
And you can replay it in your own home over and over rather than going to YouTube.
Right. And thank you, Mom, for coming with me on this review. I know it's been a while, so it's time for you to join back in with me.
Well, thank you. I really wanted to talk about Bruno.
Right. And let us know what you think in the comments below. Did you see the Encanto movie? Did you have your favorite scene, a favorite song, a favorite character? Besides, we know Bruno.
And how many times have you personally watched the video and or listened to this song? Personally, let Rascal know in the comments.
Right. We can let us know too. I'll just tell her what the comments are. So, thank you so much for watching. I'm Rascal.
And I'm Mama.
Have a toontastic day.